Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And I gotta say, a fun episode of NXT. You know, we had some quality matches, good time, but as far as like progressing things goes, I mean, we got a little bit established for next week, but I didn't really think it was too much of a productive episode. I think this was more a let's just have good matches, let it be a fun time kind of show. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, the main event of tonight's show was great. The curtain jerker was a really good match, but to me personally, my highlight of the night was No Way Jose's debut.
And I have to agree with you. That debut was a lot of fun, but we'll get more into that later. Yeah, I mean, on the whole, a good episode of NXT, not trying to denigrate it anyway.
No, I mean, it really does. It feels par for the course for NXT. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily, super high praise. It's just they have their formula and they're rolling with it and it works and it's good, but it's never really like exceptional.
Exactly. So on that note, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. I think your preceding comments really sum up my disposition in this segment quite perfectly. I have no heats tonight. I have no nitpicks. It's just NXT applying the formula, and it works tonight, and it's a good time, so I'm all good.
Exactly. Yeah, there was... The NXT's gotten really good at putting on a good show, making all the right decisions, not really doing anything blasphemous that would make us, toss our hands up in arms or anything like that. So yeah, let's move on.
All right, let us get right into our NXT review, and we open up with Enzo and Cass coming out to a nice pop from the NXT crowd. Corey Graves lamenting that he thought those guys left for Raw and SmackDown, so I guess kind of surprised to see him there. They do their usual stuff, and then Cass, says, we've been doing this longer than any other team in NXT, and we have yet to have a one-on-one, kind of match with these guys. So the question remains if they are, and then they do the whole soft thing, and we find out that their opponents are American Alpha. We know that match got hinted at, I believe, either last week or 2 weeks ago, and now we're getting it tonight. So this is our opener, Enzo and Cass versus American Alpha. I enjoyed it, and the one word you used for NXT on the whole was kind of par for the course, and I thought this was kind of a par for the course American Alpha match. Not bad by any means, but you have Enzo getting his arm worked over. Chad Gable gets cut, the ring cut in half by Enzo and Cass, isolated from Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan comes in, and his hot tag is still a lot of fun. He's suplexing poor Enzo Amore everywhere. One cool spot this match had, when Jason Jordan tried to do, the really high-energy shoulder thrust to Enzo the first time, Cass intercepted it. I thought that was pretty cool. But then he ultimately does get it off, and then him and Chad Gable hit their double-team finisher, which I have learned, and I've committed to memory, is called Grand Amplitude. So they get that. They get the win. American Alpha establishes their dominance.
I love that the WWE is able to take a couple of guys who are talented, put them with each other, and then just kind of figure everything else out from there. Because, right off the bat, you saw that these guys had great chemistry. They were great in the ring. And over time, we've known them. They've gone from Jason Jordan and Chad Gable to Jordan and Gable to American Alpha. And now we're also kind of developing, okay, well, their tag team finisher has a name now too, Grand Amplitude. They're the tag champs. This feels like such a really great kind of feel-good story, building something from the ground up in the most literal way possible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love the story of how these two men came together, especially if you know Jason Jordan's history with NXT. And I'm not just talking about going through tag partners, but apparently, as Chad Gable noted, as I think even you noted, and we kind of noted in our TakeOver Dallas live reactions, he had a tough go at it. He did events where, people would boo him in this and that, and now he's become one of the fan favorites. Chad Gable is just so beloved by people, and they found each other, and they've brought out the best in each other, and they've made each other's NXT run as great as it can possibly be right now. So it really is a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, like you said, this was a, pretty paint by numbers kind of American Alpha match. You already described it. We already know who the winner was. So you know what? Let's just move on.
Sounds good to me.
Up next was an Apollo Crews promo. And, I kind of dug this. And I want to be excited about this. But then I realize, he's main roster bound. So who cares?
Right.
That's kind of how I felt about this. Because, this was easily his best NXT promo that we've seen so far. He talks about how he doesn't like bullies. And that means that he doesn't like Samoa Joe. And he kind of has a really cool closing line to this where he says, "Welcome to the age of Apollo." And his delivery was on point for this. There were still a few little kind of speech ticks that he kind of pulled off in here that need some work. But this was easily his best work to date. And it would make me really excited for an Apollo Crews versus Samoa Joe program. But Apollo is on the main roster now, so I can't even be excited about that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And see, it's kind of sad because I really feel like we're being deprived of watching Apollo grow organically as a performer.
Yeah, this is really, I would say maybe the horsewomen getting called up is the only other example that I can personally, and I guess Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but that more got cut short by Zayn's injury than any call-ups. But this feels like the best recent example of a call-up preventing us from being able to be told a full beginning to end comprehensive story on NXT.
Yeah.
And that happened, I think, with both Crews and Corbin, because Corbin felt like NXT champion incarnate, and now he's on the main roster, and he's doing great on the main roster. I can't complain about that, but I kind of wish that it was possible for someone to be both main roster and NXT for more than just a couple of months before they become full-time main roster.
Right. And I totally see where you're coming from there, because I agree, this is fine promo work by Apollo. Pretty much saying he's followed Samoa Joe's career, he knows everything he's done, and then, he just punctuates it, but, this is the age of Apollo. Welcome, bitches. So it's great stuff from Apollo. He seems more confident, he seems more believable when he speaks, but I know, like you said, it's kind of grounded in that disappointment because I know it's not going to develop into anything. Like, if this developed into a Joe Crews program, I could get psyched by that because I know that not only are we going to get quality matches, but Apollo's developing as a performer. But instead, he's at that quote-unquote graduated state, the main roster where everybody, wants to get, and he just feels incomplete, which is a shame because there's so much promise in him, and we'll see how he does. It hasn't been bad so far, but I would say generic, just keep feeding me guys and build up a streak, and I hope that he does well, but I'd really love to see him complete that character evolution on NXT, and it's just sad that we got deprived of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not really a lot more to say about that. Moving on, we had a No Way Jose teaser, and then immediately we had our second match of the night, which was No Way Jose debuting to face, I guess, the German Alexander Wolfe, who really, he had a decent match, but he didn't really do anything exceptional other than throw some pretty awesome worked punches, very Corbin-esque. But yeah, this was all about No Way Jose's debut, and I loved it, man. I thought that he was great. There were two little things that I want to refine, but we'll talk about that later.
Dude, I love this.
Yeah.
I love the energy. I love the theme, which, by the way, when there's it probably already is fully on YouTube. I've noticed the release rate has really gotten in high gear since Nakamura's debut. So it's probably already out there somewhere. Yep. But I love the theme. I love the energy. And I love the mannerisms. I think my favorite thing was when he did the kind of dance maneuver into the side headlock.
Dude, that was amazing.
That was so good. And see, that I'm just going to be real with everybody. Everybody was like, oh, Adam Rose and Fandango 2.0. I mean, I like those guys. I don't have a problem with either of them. Already, though, I feel like this guy is so much better. Like, there's just something about this guy that I can't put my finger on. Maybe that's what they call the it factor. But there's definitely something here with No Way Jose. And I freaking love it, man. I'm all on board.
Yeah, man. This was awesome. He's really, really entertaining, super charismatic, but I kind of already knew that because of his house show work and stuff like that. There were two things, John, that I think there's still quite a bit of room for improvement on. I want you to see if you can guess one or both of them.
Selling?
No, I thought he was fine at selling.
To be honest, I'm kind of stumped. That was my
They're
best
both
guess. So what are the two things?
they're both very superficial, but that's all of what WWE's about is the superficial.
Let's see. Well, was it the look, like the attire?
The attire is one of them. Yes, I think he needs way more colorful attire because
I do agree. I think it would match the personality a lot better and be more
because like the
reflective.
all white look, it looks like he's in a cult.
Exactly. And that's at least
I can
that's,
definitely see him keeping the white undershirt, the white with the white wife beater going on, but he
right.
needs like a bright, colorful pimp jacket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's got so many vibrant colors going on in the Titantron, with the whole no and they move with the music. He needs an attire that I think is complementary of that. So I can agree with you. But what's the second thing?
His finisher. I like it, but I don't love it. I think that his finisher that he's using right now would be a great setup move, but I'm not a huge fan of it as a finish.
See, here's the thing. I agree with you. In fact, yeah, I think I thought I would have a qualifier, but my thing is about the finisher, I'll put it this way. It felt very People's Elbow-esque, because he put, like, all these mannerisms in it, and he kind of charged it up, but at the end of the day, it is just a right hand, the same way that the Rock, all that really is an elbow drop. So I think it does have that potential, but, People's Elbow, I think, was only as good as the Rock Bottom that would either precede it or whatever. I think No Way Jose needs a move like that. You can keep the right hand. I like it. I think it could be a real crowd pleaser, something that they get into, so definitely keep it in the repertoire, but I can totally see where you're coming from, because we live in an age where I don't know if that shit flies as much anymore. I think it only really flies if you're a nostalgia addict. I think people really like legitimate match enders. I don't know if people are going to look at a right hand and be like, oh, you beat the guy with that, especially because you're not the Big Show. You're not this behemoth-looking guy. Certainly you're very fit, but he doesn't have that imposing kind of quality. So, yeah, an upgrade definitely seems to be in order.
Yeah, I know this is obviously asking way too much for a guy that we don't really know what his athletic limitations are, but I think it would be cool if he did some kind of like a springboard move for his finisher. You know what I mean? Because there were two separate moments where he had Alexander Wolfe lying flat on his back in the middle of the ring, and I was expecting him to pull out like a springboard moonsault or a springboard splash or something athletic like that. But maybe the WWE doesn't want him to do that because he's kind of got that height going on where they want to kind of keep him away from the high flying stuff.
Right.
I don't know, but I feel like there needs to be. To me, everything about this gimmick is flashy, so I want him to have a flashy finisher too. And his is really just like a theatrical punch.
Yeah, I love how animated he is. I love how dynamic, he seems to be. Comes in like a freaking dynamo, like gangbusters, definite theatrics. I mean, even with that leg drop, he did kind of a flare strut, and he's doing all this stuff, and then he drops the leg. So this is a guy, I don't know what kind of finisher I really want for him. I mean, if they want to go a standard Impact finisher, but add some oomph to it, with some mannerisms, whatever, fine. They're probably going to build up this right hand. And again, it's not all bad. I do like that, again, he animates it a little bit, allows the crowd an entryway to get into it, to be a part of it, to kind of infuse that finisher with their energy, so to speak. But, maybe more of a standard, like a Uranagi or just something like that for No Way Jose, I think would work. But I can see where you're coming from, though, with the flashy stuff. I mean, you're talking about a guy that when he bursts on the scene, he just exudes this kind of energy, and it's infectious, and you want to get into it. And, yeah, the repertoire, I think, from top to bottom should be complimentary of that.
Yeah, get him some, like, colorful, flashy pants and a colorful, flashy jacket to wear on top of his white wife beater.
Yeah, definitely.
And let him keep using the punch as, like you said, as, like, a people's elbow, which, I mean, early on, it was never a finisher. It only really started being a finisher towards the end of his career when he was, like, Hollywood Rock and stuff like that. And give him an actual finisher. Now, granted, it doesn't have to be something high-flying. Maybe that was more like the lucha mark in me coming out, but I definitely think that there's room for improvement in the attire and finisher areas, but everything else I loved.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think it was good stuff. I can't wait to see more from him, honestly. I think it's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. All right, now let's move on. We get an Austin Aries interview. Alex Reyes is interviewing Austin Aries, and to put it succinctly, Austin Aries doesn't believe in luck. He believes that people create their own luck, and Baron Corbin basically kind of gets the bring it treatment.
Yeah, I mean, because Baron Corbin accusing Austin Aries of getting lucky. And are they going to have a rematch next week? Because I thought something was mentioned about that. Or was that, like, not even hinted at? Because I thought the interview said something about they're probably going to be facing each other again.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, because Baron Corbin just seemed like you got lucky. This isn't over. Like, why would that even be mentioned unless Baron Corbin was going to tie up that loose end, which I didn't even think it was a loose end. But I guess they would want the finish to be more decisive in the rematch. So, but yeah, Austin Aries, very cocky, very confident. That's always been his character. Says, I don't believe in luck, it's ability. And Baron Corbin into the entire locker room, bring it on, because I didn't come here, just kind of lazy around. I came here to be the best. So good promo from Austin Aries, pretty standard for his character. And if Baron Corbin and Austin Aries are slated for a rematch, I very much look forward to it.
Yeah, all right. So now we can move on. We get a kind of a reminder or a notification or whatever that we're getting Joe versus Cruz tonight. And then we see Elias Samson playing guitar backstage, and William Regal shows up. And, he says that he thinks he knows what Samson wants, and Samson's just like, how could you possibly know what I want? And Regal says, well, I don't, but I do know what's best for NXT. And next week, you're facing NXT's newest signee, Shinsuke Nakamura. And he walks away, and Samson, you're thinking, oh, wow, this is such a huge opportunity for Elias Samson to face this huge international star. But Samson doesn't really seem too happy about it. I think he realizes exactly what William Regal is trying to do here.
Yeah, it's that sinister side of William Regal that we've talked about before that he likes to exhibit towards certain people. Like, oh, I know what I'm putting you in for when I put you up against insert person's name here, in this case, Shinsuke Nakamura. Because it is going to be a rough night for Elias Samson next week. And he's probably thinking, man, I had like 3 street corners booked that I was going to play the guitar at, and now William Regal's cutting into my time. So, yeah, it should be an interesting match for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now let's get to our third match. Deonna Purrazzo versus Nia Jax. Basically a squash, but I think it is a positive note that Nia doesn't adjust for the pin anymore. She just tells the ref to count it while she has her leg over Deonna's neck.
Yeah, great moment there for Nia Jackson. Great catch by you bringing that up, because I didn't bother to really think about that. But yeah, more or less a squash. Deonna Purrazzo tries going for a schoolboy at one point, but Nia Jax just shuts that shit down. And yeah, she just rolls on. So it keeps Nia Jax in our minds, because it feels like quite a while since we've seen her, at least to me, at least in action. And Deonna Purrazzo, that's great. Still wondering where Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are, but I digress. And yeah, Nia Jax moves on.
Hey, where the hell are they?
I don't know, but I'd love to find out.
God, man, that's so frustrating. I'm such a big fan of both of those women, and they're just not around ever anymore. I really hope they don't get released, and it's just, trying to refine gimmicks on house shows to get something ready for the NXT TV show.
I mean, I'm hoping they don't, because I know Sasha has spoken very highly of both women.
It seems like pretty much everybody that's ever worked with them speaks highly of them.
Right, yeah.
Emma, Paige, Bayley, you mentioned Sasha. I don't know about Becky, but I'm sure she would have good things to say. Like, I feel like even, I forget her name, the female trainer that they have.
Sarah Del Rey.
Yeah, I feel like even she has come out and praised those girls. So it's just a matter of time before they actually start to get used, because, man, is the anticipation real.
Well, hey, the cream always rises to the top, and I'm definitely sure that Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, how talented they are, they'll get their due. I mean, sometimes in NXT, some acts, it takes frustratingly longer than other acts, but they do eventually get there. That's something I can give to NXT's credit, and Billie Kay and Peyton Royce will be no different. So, yeah, Nia Jax gets a squash match. I mean, clearly, I think with the segment that we got that I think preceded this, it seems like Nia Jax versus Asuka is down the road, which that's fine. Get Nia Jax back in the title picture. I think she's that good monster heel to establish instant credibility to any babyface title reign if you want to use her that way. So I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, we'll see what she has next.
All right. So up next, we had a Dasha Fuentes interview with Bayley. And Bayley kind of alludes to Asuka versus Eva Marie happening next week, because she brings up Asuka, and then she brings up Eva and talks about Eva having an opportunity at Asuka. And then she kind of, closes it all and puts a nice little bow on it with, as long as the women's championship is in the picture, I'll be watching.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, we know we're going to get Eva versus Asuka. And again, this is what I think will ultimately lead to Asuka and Nia Jax. And I actually have to remind myself that Asuka's NXT Women's Champion. It's not Bayley anymore, because her saying that, I'm like, well, of course, she's a champion scarring your challenger, but then I'm like, oh, wait, Asuka became champion at Dallas. So, yeah, interesting how they're going to start off her title reign. Bayley's looming. I do wonder what kind of rematch they're going to get, if it's going to be a standard match or if it is going to have a step. And, we'll see that. But first, I guess Asuka has to get through Eva, and then subsequently, one would assume, Nia Jax. So that should be fun to watch.
Yeah. It really does just feel like an elaborate setup for Nia versus Asuka.
Yeah, it really does, man.
Yeah, because clearly, I mean, this Eva-Asuka match, it's going to be like torture porn in the best way possible.
Oh, yeah, they're only giving us this match because they know the crowd reception to Eva, and then they think, well, who do they really think is the killer in the women's division? Asuka, clearly. Put those two together, and from crowd reaction, this may be match of the night.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, and plus, if you think about the last time Eva Marie was in a title match, it was actually a really good match, if for no other reason, because of the fact that the crowd was so invested, and not even just the crowd, but everyone that watched it, including us, was so invested in Eva not winning.
Right, exactly. That's just the kind of heat that she garners. And Asuka's the perfect babyface foil because of the fire that she brings. This match is going to be, again, from crowd reaction to just all that stuff, it's going to be match of the night. So I'm very much looking forward to it for the same reason every other sadistic motherfucker is, and that's just to see Eva get her head kicked in. So it should be a fun time.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about this main event. Apollo Crews versus Samoa Joe. And honestly, John, I wasn't really as into this match as I thought I would be. It's weird because I feel like Samoa Joe should be champion right now, because the only reason that I saw for them withholding the championship from Joe was because I thought, oh, now they're going to call him up on Monday, literally the Monday following the match that he lost for the title. I thought, okay, now he's getting called up, but he's still not on the main roster, so why is he not the champion?
Yeah, Joe's in a very unique, and I think many would agree, frustrating place, because that's certainly the word that I use.
Like, it's starting to feel more and more like Hideo is going to be the one to take the title off Finn, but it's also just on the main roster starting to feel like Finn is getting called up really soon.
And it's funny, right? Because in this Kevin Owens interview I watched today, Kevin Owens said it's only a matter of time. Finn's only still down there because of what he represents to NXT. He came right out and said, I think there's going to be a huge void when Finn leaves, but he was like, yeah, it's only a matter of time. So Kevin and you are on the same wavelength because you just feel like it's imminent. I certainly agree because, I mean, this title reign now is getting close to 9 months.
It's over 9 months.
It's over 9 months. I stand corrected. Over 9 months, which I think
because Finn won the title on the 4th of July last year. So that's
right.
I mean, it would have been 9 months on the 4th of April this year.
Right, exactly. So you're talking 9 months and just all this time,
closing in on 10.
Exactly. Yeah, closing in on 10.
I really think, the more in hindsight, and even trying to have some foresight, the more I think about it, the more I hate the decision to keep that title on Finn at Dallas, because, I mean, first of all, that crowd was ripe for a Samoa Joe face turn. They were like, every time Joe got blood cleaned off of his face, the crowd was booing and they were angry. And I think it might have had a little bit to do with just like, the disjointedness of the match that it was bringing. But I also think it has a lot to do with the fact that the crowd saw that as, oh, well, the refs are giving Finn time to recover. And they kind of put Finn in a little bit of a heelish light because of that. And they were really like, they were ready to see Joe kill, but the refs kept stopping him. So I feel like that was like the hottest that you were going to get Joe, and he lost. And now, right now, looking forward, it looks like your best option is still to put the title on Joe from Finn so that you can call Finn up and then have Hideo be the one to dethrone Joe eventually when Hideo gets back healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with you because, I mean, look where we are. Joe does not have the NXT championship. Dallas was his second opportunity at Finn Balor, which, I mean, the win, I've even said I feel like was less convincing than London because he just, he did a pinning counter to the Coquina Clutch, whereas London, he did win with the coup de grace. And you've got
it's getting less and less decisive every time.
Exactly. So either you're building up a story where Joe is getting closer and closer to beating Balor, which quite honestly is a story I'm not particularly interested to take.
No, because they're almost booking it like Joe is the face now.
Exactly. Joe
And
is
I
the
think
face.
that if you want Hideo to be the guy that take the title off Joe, you need him to be that heel killer, you know?
Exactly. First of all, yeah, Balor is the face, Joe is the heel, and second of all, with the way that man works in the ring, because he always brings, like, his body language says intense, his offense says, I end it painfully, I torture the people I'm in the ring with because I'm just that malicious and I'm that ruthless.
Right.
You want that to be just this really dominant heel character for any babyface that gets to overcome. Now, Balor did, which again is frustrating because his title reign's been of such a length. Who the hell is going to end it? I know people are putting their hats in the Shinsuke Nakamura ring, which to a degree I understand, but I'm more with you, Ashton. I'm thinking Hideo Itami whenever he returns. I don't even know if they're going to try.
And then, even not necessarily coming up with an alternative, I think there's a very slim possibility that Nakamura takes the title away from Finn because of the fact that I highly doubt Nakamura is on the NXT long enough to have any kind of title reign.
Right.
Yeah, I've been saying this since Dallas. He's getting called up either before, at, or the night after SummerSlam.
Yeah, that you have been saying that. And that only gives Nakamura a window of a few months, with NXT. And really, when we're talking the NXT championship, you have insufficient time to make a maneuver like that productive.
Right.
But I feel like if you're just using Shinsuke to put on quality matches and to be Shinsuke Nakamura, so more or less just a very, very special attraction for NXT.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do quite a bit in that time. So it leads us back to the frustrating question, who the hell is going to upend this Finn Balor title reign? And who's going to be the next NXT champion? Because in my mind, and I was saying it as far back as London, like, me personally, when we have talked about Finn in his title reign, I love Finn to death. I have the utmost respect for the guy, but I have been ready for a title change for the last few months. And
I would say for the last 4 months, because I think you and I both agreed that we wanted Joe to beat Finn for the title in London.
Yeah, exactly.
And that didn't happen, and then we wanted him to beat Finn for the title in Dallas, and that didn't happen. So now the NXT title feels like it really is kind of in a state of purgatory because, like, sure, Finn has it, but there really, literally just no legitimate heel challengers at all. So you really only have two choices that I can see. Finn turns heel or Joe gets the title and Finn gets called up. And if the second one is the choice that you end up going with, why didn't you just pull the trigger at one of the last two shows rather than waiting for a third match?
Exactly. Because to me, you had two great opportunities to do it. The first time in London, Joe was on the warpath. That was the side of the program where Joe was consistently choking out Balor and things like that.
Yeah, and if they would have pulled the trigger then, Joe would have felt like a real obstacle.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then now, like with Joe at Dallas, if they could have pulled the trigger then, they could have sort of had another top babyface champion because they could have used Joe as that sort of like tweener badass babyface that, kind of like almost like what Pentagon Jr. is for Lucha Underground, where he just goes out there and he kills people.
Exactly. And, I agree with you. And I loved your interpretation of, like, the match stoppages and the blood and everything, because I do think that's great babyface momentum for Joe. And maybe that's what they're looking for. Somebody, because Finn Balor is a babyface, incredibly over. They're probably looking for somebody of a similar magnitude. You probably made it that night in Dallas, and you didn't capitalize on it. And it's frustrating because, I understand Finn's reservations about going anywhere and wanting to build NXT. But, I mean, sooner or later, it's not going to be what you want. It's just going to be, what the company wants and the value they see in you and your name as Finn Balor. Yeah. And then what happens to NXT after that? Because here's the thing. This match, to bring it full circle, in my mind, Ashton, even though Apollo Crews showed resistance, no doubt about that, when you look at the final 2 minutes of this match, final few minutes of this match, Joe handles Apollo Crews pretty handily. It's just like, okay, Uranagi in the corner, gets the coquina clutch. Crews does last a little bit, but he does, ultimately tap out. And Joe, I mean, that's a dominant, decisive victory right there. But a dominant, decisive victory to what? because you and I have already agreed, as much as I love Joe, I don't want to see a third match between him and Balor. And I said to you, I feel like he's going to do a number one contenders match with Shinsuke Nakamura, with Nakamura going over. But then after that, what do you do? Do you have some kind of upper mid-card or something step up to Joe and be like, I don't like how you handle business, and you try making a babyface that way? Or do you call up Joe? I would prefer the latter, because, I know this is purely fantasy booking, but I joked my fantasy booking, I'd love to have Samoa Joe his first night on Raw. He chokes out Roman Reigns, and that's how you get the next challenger.
Right. And the crazy thing, too, is that at that point, Joe they would be booking him as a heel, but he would be a babyface still.
Oh, my, people would revel in that shit. I'm just imagining the GIFs coming out already, and it's not even a thing yet.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what WWE, particularly Vince McMahon, because I think you said this to me in conversation. This wasn't a TWitWoW line, but, how good or how bad Raw is, the direction that the whole product goes comes down to the opinion of this 70-something-year-old man. And he may look at Joe, and he may think, oh, I don't think that guy's a legit fighter or this or that or whatever stupid bullshit is. And maybe Joe wouldn't have the best plan. So maybe he does have a good deal in NXT, but it's frustrating because I feel like Joe not winning the title, to your point that you made earlier at the start of the discussion, he has hit a wall. And I just don't know, where you go now. Because I'm going to be invested in Joe regardless, because I'm loving his character work. And everything about him has improved significantly from his TNA days. But how do you use that? How do you maximize the utility of what you've got on your hands to create other stars and to overall build the prestige and the awareness of your product? That's a question they have to answer. Because, this match was fine. But I'm almost apathetic towards it because, one, it wasn't really this highly competitive match. I thought Joe handled his business pretty handily.
Right.
And two,
which kind of makes you wonder again, what business does Apollo Crews have on the main roster?
Yeah, that's a great point, too, because even if you want to think kayfabe, why did these guys get called up? I could have made the same case about the Vaudevillains, I believe it was last week, when they lost to Ciampa and Gargano. Wait a minute, you're the main roster team, and you're in the tag team tournament?
Yeah. And I get Enzo and Cass because it was the champions that they lost to, and Enzo and Cass bring so much more to the table than just being good in matches. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can justify Enzo and Cass, but Corbin or Cruz and the Vaudevillains are kind of baffling.
Yeah, I do agree. I'm happy for the Vaudevillains, and I'm happy for Apollo Crews too, more so because I see an upside rather than any kind of fandom stake.
Right.
But you see Joe win, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take the piss out of Apollo Crews here, but he's only beaten the Social Outcasts. Joe wouldn't have needed matches, to do that to the Social Outcasts. He could have slaughtered them in one segment, Brock Lesnar style. That, to me, is Samoa Joe. He's not going to waste time having matches with these guys or having segments. Oh, sure, I'll join the Social Outcast. He would choke those motherfuckers out. And honestly, he strikes me more as a Kevin Owens. He comes in his first night. He starts beef with somebody the level of John Cena, not the Social Outcast. So, why is Apollo here? And that doesn't even take into account all the stuff we talked about earlier with Apollo, with his promo segment about how we wanted to see that character growth. And this is just another frustrating thing. Because NXT Championship aside, it's just direction in general. You call Apollo up, and he's handling the jobber class right now. You could have had Joe called up, and not saying that Payback isn't looking good, but you could have got him in a major matchup for Payback or something. I don't know what they're waiting for on Joe. Maybe he'll get called up the Raw after SummerSlam like you say Shinsuke will. Maybe I need to start thinking about that. But yeah, it's really frustrating right now because this is the biggest time for me as a Samoa Joe fan. I've never been a bigger fan of his than in this run. Yeah. And I just think that kind of hit a wall. It's really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation too because, this is some stuff that we've probably both been thinking the last couple of weeks, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to get it off our chest. So if you want to move on, we can, because I'm pretty sure that Joe's victory here was the closing moment of NXT.
Yeah, you're right. So our next segment, high spots and low shots. You know what? I'm going to say that my low shot is Apollo Crews. Had this really confident promo, talked about welcome to the age of Apollo. Well, let me tell you something, man. Age of Apollo didn't have a long life now, did it? Because Joe choked it out tonight. So, yeah, Apollo Crews is my low shot.
Yeah, he had a rough night, didn't he?
Yeah, he really did. Wasn't a good time, wasn't it?
Yeah. My low shot, maybe not as prestigious as Apollo Crews, but probably still had a worse night. Deonna Purrazzo, because... damn, girl, you got squashed in more ways than one.
Yeah, she did. And unlike Apollo Crews, she doesn't have the name recognition yet to be on the main roster like he is. So,
Yeah.
actually, I feel like your low shot might have upped mine, actually, when you take everything into consideration. But I'm just going to keep playing along the same theme. My high spot's Samoa Joe.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
just
yeah,
keeps on proving why he is the best going on right now in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, he is a guy that really hasn't completely left the title picture. Like, yeah, he's lost 2 title matches, but then you have a dominant, decisive victory like this against Apollo Crews, who, again, is on the main roster. And so you say to yourself, whether you're the audience or kayfabe as William Regal, well, who do we really put him up against that keeps him away from the title picture? He's just that consistent fixture. He's going to keep coming for it and this and that. And I think Shinsuke is really the only thing at this point that can really stand in his way.
Okay, so let's man, my high spot. Who am I gonna go with? Screw it. I'll go with No Way Jose. He has a great debut. He's very entertaining. Obviously, there's some stuff he can work on, but this is developmental for a reason. And immediately, I think it's worth noting that he brought a super dead crowd back to life. And he did it. And this crowd was dead silent when his entrance was being made. But when he started doing some of his shenanigans in the ring, he brought him up to life, and it was entertaining. It was great. So, and he won, so that helps. So yeah, No Way Jose is my high spot.
I think that's an excellent choice. Had a great debut. I think the best is yet to come for this guy. Very, very high opinion of this guy after one match. I think, again, like you, there's a little bit of roughness around some of the edges, but you're in developmental. That's when they get smoothed over. I think if he upgrades the attire and, just does a little bit better, finds an alternative finisher that still has the flash and the pop and can get the crowd into it, he could be golden. This guy, I think, is a huge upside. So I love that you chose him as your high spot. And with that said, do you have any concluding remarks about NXT?
Oh no, man, I think we can close it out.
All right, guys, with that said, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
You know what? Just kind of in general, what do you guys think of No Way Jose? Do you think he's, you think he has some refinement to do? You think, and by the way, before you even frickin' go there, if your answer to this question is, oh, he's a Dominican Adam Rose or Fandango, just don't, because just don't, please.
Well, there you go.
I want your opinion, but if that's your opinion, say, my opinion is exactly what you thought it would be, so let me just talk about something else, and then tell me something else, because that's... God, I'm getting annoyed with reading people saying that. It's getting really annoying. Like, here I am thinking this guy has the kind of charisma and look and then that full package to potentially be the next Rock, and people are already writing him off as another Adam Rose or Fandango.
Yeah, man. I don't really get it. I didn't really feel like, I guess people could surmise it like from the vignettes and stuff that we got, but after this debut, I mean, I'm hoping that those comparisons cease. But guys, I mean, you heard the man. Let's have let's have a debut reactions. What did you think of No Way Jose? And again, that little disclaimer, if it was a Dominican Fandango or Adam Rose, just say exactly what Ashton said. It's what you were thinking. Let me discuss something else. But be sure to take that discussion over to Pweetov. That is Pro Wrestling. He's taking over Facebook. A lot of NXT fans over at Pweetov. I'll be interested to see what they thought of No Way Jose's debut, so be sure to be a part of the conversation. Also, be sure to like, share, and comment on the content on the TWitWoW Facebook page. We're on Facebook now. If Facebook isn't your medium of choice, you can also check out the TWitWoW subreddit. On the TWitWoW subreddit, you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the TWitWoW subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. That includes NXT. Of course, if you want the most intimate TWitWoW experience, the most engaging TWitWoW experience, if you want to see the inner workings of how we think or feel or anticipation throughout the week, you can follow both of us on Twitter. I am at John_TWitWoW. That is JOHN_TWitWoW. Ashton is at apond404, the letter A, pond, the body of water, POND 404. And we'll see you again for our Thursday night SmackDown review, where I don't know exactly what's going down, but I know if Mauro Ranallo's calling the action, it's irrelevant. All right, guys, tune in and peace out.